Hi, my name is Emily Ricosi, and today I'd like to talk about Planned Parenthood, specifically the laws that have been going through the Congress right now about defunding Planned Parenthood. Recently, this past summer, the House voted to defund Planned Parenthood from federal funding, and the Senate actually voted against defunding Planned Parenthood. But it just seems to be a short-term measure. It was about funding that was going to potentially shut down the government if they didn't agree on funding by October 1st. So they made a last-ditch effort to get the funding pushed through. They decided not to talk about Planned Parenthood for the time being, but I know that it'll be revisited soon because it's a topic that everyone's digging their heels in on, Democrats and Republicans alike. Many Republicans, especially as the presidential election is coming up, are vowing to refuse to vote for a bill that would include funding for Planned Parenthood. So as budgets continue to come up in the government, as they do, this is what we have to look forward to. So I just want to review. The reason that Planned Parenthood is under attack right now is some inflammatory videos that were posted on the internet by a radical anti-abortion group called the Center for Medical Progress. They were posted this past summer, and the videos showed Planned Parenthood executive Deborah Nucatola speaking about the procurement of fetal tissue from abortions for research. So the tissue that is gained from an abortion is sometimes donated to research facilities to use in all sorts of research. So this procurement and then transport of the tissue costs money, money that Planned Parenthood is tight to find. So oftentimes there is a fee, and it's quoted in the videos about $30 to $100 fee for procurement of the fetal tissue. In the unedited version, which is not the version that became viral and everybody was quoting, in the unedited version, Ms. Nucatola emphasizes that affiliates are not looking to make money by doing this procurement fee. They're looking to serve their patients and just make it not impact their bottom line. So Planned Parenthood's goal, like she said, is to give patients the option without impacting their bottom line, Planned Parenthood's bottom line. The message is this should not be seen as a new revenue stream because that's not what it is. So she explicitly said this in the videos taken. However, those portions of the video were cut out when they were edited to be distributed to the public. So overall, the $30 to $100 fee is not something that Planned Parenthood is putting in its pocket and taking home and going on vacations in Aruba with. Instead, they are using it in order to cover the cost of transporting the fetal tissue and procuring it in general. It has to be kept cold. It has to be transported in a specific way to keep it sanitary, everything like that. And the director of Harvard University and Brigham and Women's Hospital's biorepository, so someone who deals with samples of fetal tissue like that or other kinds of biological matter that is tested, her name is Sherilyn J. Sawyer from Harvard, and she has said that it is a reasonable fee for any agency procuring fetal tissue to be asking for $30 to $100, depending on the tissue procurement. So this is a reasonable fee. Planned Parenthood is not. They're just trying to meet their bottom line. They're just trying to stay afloat and to help the women that they are helping. Next, the GOP, the Republicans, arguments against funding Planned Parenthood is that even though a lot of this funding to Planned Parenthood, that federal funding goes to Planned Parenthood, is in the form of Medicaid payouts. A lot of women are on Medicaid that go to Planned Parenthood, and so the federal government is subsidizing those visits to Planned Parenthood. These visits are not, it is against federal law for Planned Parenthood to be getting money from the government for abortions. They're actually getting money just to serve the community as a reproductive center, reproductive health center. So they are being told that pretty much that these funds, that the Republicans are believing that because they are paying Planned Parenthood anything, they're freeing up Planned Parenthood to use the private funds that it does raise in order to do abortions. But this argument really doesn't hold any water, as William Selaton says in his response in his article. My citations will be at the end of my video. He says, but if you defund Planned Parenthood on this basis, then what you're really saying is that no organization that performs abortions can receive public funds. In theory, every dollar is fungible. No matter how carefully you separate the accounting, aid to Israel can help it build settlements in the West Bank, and tax breaks for churches can free up their other funds to support anti-gay conversion therapy. To prevent that kind of shuffling, you'd have to bar the government from paying for anything. So if we're defunding Planned Parenthood because they do one thing with money that isn't even directly coming from the government, then we can't say that the government can pay for anything that might inadvertently free up funds for some unforeseen negative thing. So it's a very unreasonable argument in general. So ultimately, defunding Planned Parenthood would primarily mean telling low-income people that their Medicaid coverage is of no use for the health care provided by Planned Parenthood, aka it is of no use for reproductive care. And this would ultimately end up in the poorest people, the poorest women and families that are accessing Planned Parenthood services are being told that they can't. And when they don't have that contraception that Planned Parenthood offers, there are more babies. And those more babies are going to result in more Medicaid coverage for more children that were avoidable if parents were able to get on the type of contraception that they should be allowed to have as a right. And not even considering that. So what would happen if we did defund Planned Parenthood? According to the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, which was tasked with showing the Congress what would actually happen if we did defund Planned Parenthood, the money that the government would end up spending would be $130 million more over the next decade if we did defund Planned Parenthood, because we would have to be paying more in Medicaid in reactionary care instead of preventative care. We would decrease reproductive care by 5 to 25% of the people who are currently receiving services, especially those in low-income areas. And those in low-income areas are those that cannot afford to have any more children and they need contraception. If we were to then allow them to become pregnant again, I mean, it's their choice, but if they did become pregnant again, then they are becoming more and more impoverished. Their children are becoming more and more impoverished, and we have an epidemic of childhood poverty in this country already, and this would just exacerbate that. Additional births due to lack of birth control access would eventually end up on Medicaid, as I said, and the additional cost of Medicaid spending would be $650 million over 10 years. And so if we do continue to allow these contraceptive services, the government, as of right now, for every dollar spent on providing women with contraception, the government saves $3.74 by avoiding unwanted pregnancies. These are cold hard facts about the funding. So if we defund Planned Parenthood, we are going to be paying so much more, and so are so many women and families who rely on these services. This issue may be on a hiatus right now, but it is nowhere near done. We need your help. Planned Parenthood needs your help, and women all over the country need your help. You need to contact your congressman or woman and let them know that you find it abominable that these allegations from a radical anti-abortion group could lead to defunding a very necessary feature of our healthcare system. It has been shown time and again that the Center for Medical Progress videos were heavily edited and completely false. Not only would the defunding of Planned Parenthood be based on a lie, it would also cut millions of at-risk women and families off from a much-needed reproductive care that would ultimately cost the government millions of dollars. So contact your congressman, get loud, get active, and don't let this happen to our women and families. We need to put them first. Thank you.